At the Earls Court Boat Show, we met up with Jason Lewis, who had recently completed a 13-year, 360-degree man-powered expedition. So Jason, tell me how this expedition first started.
It was an idea of a university friend of mine called Steve Smith, who lives down in the West Country now, and he was working as an environmental scientist back in '91 and thought of a genuine first which no one had done before, which is to circumnavigate the world using just human power, no motors and no sails. And he pitched me the idea. I was working as a window cleaner at the time, nothing to do with expeditions, and I thought what an amazing adventure, and kind of signed up on the dotted line.
And so what was the date you started the expedition?
We set out from Greenwich, London, 12th of July 1994. It's been an antipodal circumnavigation, so the expedition has hit 2 points on the surface of the globe which are diametrically opposite to each other, antipodal points. Yep. One being on the Atlantic, pedalling across the Atlantic in this boat behind me here, Moshka, and the other point being about 140 miles west of Alice Springs in Australia. And so the whole thing's involved 5 continents, 2 oceans and 2 seas, I think.
And so whilst not on the boat, what has been your mode of transport?
Well, the wet bits have involved the pedal boat for the long ocean crossings, more than 100 miles, for example. There's been kayaks for the inter-island sections through Indonesia and Mexico, swimming across some of the rivers in Southeast Asia. The land sections have been walking, rollerblading and biking.
Is there a big shoreside team?
No, it was just my dad, who lives in Dorset. He was the logistics sort of control for the ocean crossings, and if something had gone horribly wrong, then he would have been the person to have liaised with the Coast Guard and try and coordinate some kind of rescue effort. On the land sections, again, it was my dad, and there's been lots and lots of other people who have been helping in a volunteer stroke support capacity. This has never been a big sponsored event. It was going to take 3 years originally, and because we never got funding until about two years before the end of the trip, it ended up taking so much longer than we originally expected. We had to rely on the goodness of people that we met along the way to be able to move the whole thing forward one step at a time.
And indeed, the names of these people are actually written all around the hull of the boat. Is that right? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, actually, Moksha, which means liberation in Sanskrit, Moksha was here at the Earls Court Boat Show back in 1992, and then we signed up, I think, about 300 people who donated £10 to have their name put on the side of the boat in vinyl lettering forever. And since that day, there's been an additional 1,568 people who we've met along the way who have either donated some money to help us be able to kind of fund the project, people who have done a myriad of different things to help the expedition, given us a bed, when we're in a town, or found us a trailer to take the boat to a school or whatever it might have been. So now there's these almost 1,900 names of these people who really deserve the credit for getting the expedition around the world.
You had one sort of staunch supporter you met, I believe, in Tibet, is that correct?
The Dalai Lama. Yeah. Well, we've had a number of supporters who have put their name to the project. The Dalai Lama is our world patron, and that was really based upon the extracurricular activities that we were doing in connection with kids along the way, and education, and taking the expedition into the classroom through a number of cultural exchange programs which were designed to connect young people in different cultures, and for them to recognize the similarities between each other rather than just the differences, to promote qualities of empathy and tolerance and world citizenship. So on that basis, the Dalai Lama agreed to be our world patron, and we also, our UK patron was His Royal Highness the Duke of Gloucester, who launched the boat into the River Thames shortly before we left in July '94.
A memorable moment of the trip for you?
Probably the lowest point, which was a pretty memorable point, was being in this boat 1,000 miles from land between Hawaii, the island of Hawaii, and the island of Tarawa in the middle of the Pacific. And I was in the doldrums, the intertropical convergence zone, where there's no wind, just thunderstorms, and there's a countercurrent running a knot and a half back towards Central America, the wrong way, against which I'm trying to pedal towards Australia. And for 3 weeks I was pedaling on the spot. I was on this pedal unit here, and every day I would wake up from having 4 or 5 hours of sleep every morning. I'd switch on the GPS and I was exactly back to the same spot where I started from the previous morning. This went on day after day after day. And then I also developed septicemia from the seawater. I had terrible saltwater sores breaking out over my skin, and was swimming to scrape the barnacles off the boat, and somehow picked up a pathogen in the seawater, and so I was had developed this fever, and so the combination of being pushed backwards and also going kind of crazy with this fever, I thought I was going to be there forever. What happened was the southern edge of this particular belt of ocean came up to meet me, and I was able to get out into the southern hemisphere and continue on my way to Australia.
How have you come back from that enormous expedition and fitted into life back in the UK?
Not easily is the answer. I mean, when I first got back, it seemed like everything wasn't that much different. The streets looked the same. Everything looked fairly familiar on the surface, but since I've been back about 6 weeks now, I've just noticed that things have changed a lot here, and having come from such a free-form existence where I'm pretty much forging my own destiny from one day to the next, in and around bureaucracy and all the other constraints of travelling, money being of course one of them, it's strange to come back to such a rigid, rule-orientated society.
Stuff laminated.